September 13th will, of course, be one of the biggest fights of not only the year, but some people can say even the decade. That's right, that being Canelo Alvarez defending his undisputed super middleweight titles against Terrence Bud Crawford, a 4-division world champion, jumping up 2 divisions to his 6th, technically, in an attempt to chase greatness. Now, of course, the undercard, not the best, but at the same time, it's not pay-per-view, it's on Netflix, so you can't complain too much. But there are some fights in here that are very much interesting. That's being Christian and Billy defending his WBC interim super middleweight title against Lester Martinez. Obviously, the winner of this fight will most likely be his next mandatory, or whoever wins mandatory, either Martinez or was it Iglesias, that dude's name? He just beat some dude, I think, for the IBF mandatory spot. And you know how strict the IBF is, so you could be him next. But besides that, the co-main event is a much anticipated secondary fight, that being Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr. Obviously, both of them have been talking a lot of trash to each other, and overall they were like, oh, you don't want to fight me, you don't want to fight me. Now they're fighting in the co-main event of one of the biggest fights of the year. So obviously, very much nice. But besides that, let's talk about Billy versus Martinez. Of course, Lester Martinez is 19-0 with 16 wins by way of knockout. A heavy hitter. Obviously, he's coming off of the 4th round stoppage victory against Joshawn James in a very much one-sided affair. But, okay, not really one-sided. Joshawn James kind of held his own until he got touched by Martinez, and then it kind of went downhill after that. But besides that, obviously, 3 people have only ever gone to decision with him. Obviously, one of them being against the very tough former IBO champion, Carlos Gongora. Of course, he does have deceptively fast hands. I didn't think he was that fast, but he's pretty fast. Jaw-dropping power, obviously. He doesn't have the touch of death, but if there's someone you really don't want to get hit by, it's this guy. But besides that, Christian and Billy is the now WBC interim champion. 29-0 with 24 wins by way of knockout, ranked number 3 on BoxRec. Obviously, he is seen as a top super middleweight. Obviously, by BoxRec, one of the best in the division. Of course, he is coming off of the 1st round stoppage victory against Masek Salecki. Obviously, very good win, obviously, because Salecki is or was known to pretty much take a lot of people, not in the deep waters, but very late into fights. Stopped them in the very 1st round. Very little people can say that. Of course, he did get a unanimous decision win against Sergey Deverenchenko. Take that with a grain of salt, because Deverenchenko was basically one-handed, and even then he was kind of cooking him, Billy. But besides that, he has also fought Carlos Gongora. And, of course, Gongora being as tough as he is, he gave them some scary moments. Unfortunately for Billy, obviously, math doesn't really work in combat sports, but Billy kind of looked the worst out of the 2 against Gongora. But out of pure resume, Billy is better, but not significantly. Not to the point where someone says, oh, Billy's fought the best of the best. He's truly the best fighter out of the 2. No, Martinez, although is still not proven, he has fought his fair share of decent people. Obviously, since both of them have fought Gongora, and both of them kind of had the same kind of performance against them, it's safe to assume the difference between them in terms of skill, not the most, not the biggest, right? But what is the biggest is their power. Now, that's where things get really much interesting, because Billy has power, obviously. And obviously, you don't want to get hit by someone by Billy, but he's more of a break you down with combos type of power. Not like a Lester Martinez one-shot knockout power, which obviously it's not a good thing for Billy. But enough dilly-dallying. Who's gonna win? This is a very good fight. I think it's a 50-50 fight, because Lester Martinez, he's fast, he's strong, he's somewhat durable. Out of the 2, I think Martinez is a wee bit more durable, because I think he's better at fighting tired out of the 2. Which is maybe saying, what does that have to do with durability? If obviously you know how to defend yourself better when you're tired, that kind of helps your durability. So, who's going to win? I'm going to be real with you. I think Martinez wins. I think Martinez stops Billy. I'm saying it here. Lester Martinez stops Billy. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it right here. I think he does it relatively quickly. I think he does it in the 7th round. And Billy's good. He's strong. He's durable. But against these somewhat quick opponents, he struggles. Obviously, everyone struggles with speed. But Martinez, I think I have underestimated him before, which you could say I'm now overestimating him. But, you know, at the end of the day, out of the recent performances, Mbili has it better, but styles make fights. And I think Mbili struggles against someone like Lester Martinez. His style, especially someone being trained by Bomac, who obviously is seen as one of the better trainers out there. And I think that's where I think that's the edge I'm giving to Martinez, is that Bomac, I assume, is going to be in his corner that fight. I think he's gonna make up a game plan that really shuts down Mbili. Give me Lester Martinez by 7th round stoppage victory. Now, of course, the co-main event, the battle of who is this guy fight? That's right, Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas, super welterweight division. Obviously, the winner of this fight, obviously I assume that they win comfortably, will put the division on notice. Two undefeated fighters, obviously, once again, is more of the, who does this guy fight? Of course, Fernando Vargas Jr. is 17-0, 15 wins by way of knockout. He's coming off of one of his better wins, if not his best win to date, that being Gonzalo Correa, which obviously, saying that probably says a lot about what his resume is. Of course, one of the Vargas brothers, Vargas dynasty, everyone knows. He's the oldest. And his best wins are, of course, Correa and Brad Solomon. Yeah, not the best. But once again, he's facing Callum Walsh. Now, of course, Callum Walsh is 14-0 with 11 wins by way of knockout. Obviously, these two have lots of power. Callum Walsh is younger by 4 years, but at the end of the day, that really doesn't matter considering Vargas isn't old, so it's not like, oh, he's out of his prime. Matter of fact, Vargas is closer to his prime than, obviously, Walsh is. Now, of course, when you're saying, oh, wasn't this the whole who has he fought? And you look at their resumes, you could say that Walsh's resume is better because they have the better records. And you would be kind of right. But if you look at who they beaten, so if you look at the best records that Callum Walsh has beaten, and you look at who they've beaten, it's not the same. It's not even close. They're just fighting a bunch of I don't know how to say losers, but they have losing records, and they're not that good at all. And here's the thing. They're basically fighting each other. Like, literally. They both have fought. Actually, matter of fact, Walsh has fought better records, but those records have, you look deep into it, it's not going to be good at all. You look at, like, oh, I beat this guy, he's look at this, 19-1. Who is he beating, though? Like 7-27 guys? It's not the same. Can't be bragging about that. That's, what? Glass house, literally glass house. They're throwing rocks at each other. But, here's the thing. Once again, power is a big factor in this. And they do have the same knockout ratios, but the difference is Vargas has knocked out the much more proven, durable guys. That being Correa. Correa has lost 8 times. He's only ever been stopped 3 times. Obviously, one by Vargas. The other 2, guess who it is? The only other people to ever stop Correa was goddamn Jaime Munguia and Janibek. That's right, Janibek, the unified champion. And Munguia, who at the time was the super middleweight, or he still is super middleweight, but at the time they fought, Correa was at super middleweight. Vargas knocked him out at, as you could say, much more natural weight class for Correa. Vargas has power, but has been much more proven to have power compared to Walsh. Walsh has power, but he hasn't fought anyone with the tricks or the experience like someone like Correa. He's fought some people with winning records, don't get me wrong. But you look at their resume, I don't know, obviously, just because you enter the ring against someone with like 5 wins and 20 losses means you're going to win. Obviously not. But if you look at who they beat, it kind of makes sense why he has so many knockouts. I'm just saying. Both of them have not fought anyone near the caliber of fighter of obviously who they're stepping in the ring with. Obviously, Vargas has not fought anyone. Actually, no. Walsh has not fought anyone near the athleticism of someone like Vargas Jr. Vargas Jr. has not fought anyone, obviously, the style of Walsh. The difference is Vargas has fought, weirdly enough, the better opposition, the much more experienced opposition compared to Walsh. You look at their records, once again, he has some good records, 13-1 and all that stuff. But if you look at who they beaten, it's not really something to brag about. And here's the thing. When you're putting 2 people who are not proven and put them in the ring, what's the difference between them? Just natural talent. And who has natural talent? I'm not saying Walsh doesn't have natural talent, but one has come from, well, the The Vargas dynasty. And here's the thing. Both have power, both have gotten their highlight reel knockouts. But only one person will crumble fast to the other's power. That's right. I think Walsh will crumble to Vargas's power. Look at the way they fight. They both fight like, it makes sense who they fight. You look at how they fight, you think, okay, that makes sense. They fought their lesser opposition. I hate being as disrespectful as I am now, but Vargas has fought the much more experienced fighters. Obviously, that being Correa and Solomon. And once again, Vargas's power is much more, I say, well proven than Walsh's. Weirdly enough, give me Vargas by 5th round stoppage. That's right. Give me Vargas by 5th round stoppage. I think he shows levels, and I think he kind of steps into the super welterweight, talking. People start talking about him in the rankings of super welterweight. I think that's what's going to happen. Vargas has that one-shot knockout power against people who have not been knocked out before, only by literally the best of the division, that being obviously Janibek and Munguia. But besides that, give me Vargas by, 5th round stoppage? Yep, makes sense. But now, the main event of the year, Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford. Winner of this fight wins a lot in terms of legacy. Mostly for Crawford, but Canelo gets his fair share of the limelight, or the fair share of his praises. But before we get into records and who wins, let's talk about what happens if they win. If Canelo Alvarez wins against Bud Crawford, assuming that he puts up a good fight, assuming he doesn't crumble under the power or size of Canelo, I think he finally cements himself as not only one of the greatest fighters of our era, but you could even make a very, very good argument that he's the best Mexican boxer to ever step in the ring. Obviously, people are still fond of Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., and it makes sense. He's like the Mexican boxer. Like, if you ask someone, imagine a Mexican boxer, they're probably thinking of Chavez Sr., but in terms of legacy, it's kind of hard denying Canelo's greatness. If Crawford wins, I think he gets a lot more praise than Canelo if he wins. If Crawford wins, he would be a 5-division world champion, a 4-division lineal champion if I'm correct, and a 3-division undisputed champion. That's right, undisputed. I don't know if that's ever been done before. 2-division undisputed champion. Yep, that's been done in a lot of eras. I don't know if 3 divisions have ever been done, especially jumping up 2 weight classes to beat one of the greatest fighters of our era in Canelo. Crawford would instantly become top 5 of all time, easily. You could make a good argument that he could even be number 1, number 2. You could even put him top 3. But besides that, a lot on the line, a very big money fight. But besides that, the challenger, Terrence Bud Crawford, 41-0, 31 wins by way of knockout, inactive, but he is I assume he's still the WBA champion at super welterweight. Obviously, he held the lineal titles in lightweight, super lightweight, and welterweight. Unfortunately, not super welterweight. But he was the first male boxer to become undisputed in 2 different divisions in the 4-belt era, obviously making history. And he is seen as one of the greatest tacticians in our era, being able to dissect almost any opponent. Any style he's seen it, he has conquered it. With a great team behind him, it is very hard to outthink Crawford and his team. But of course, there's anyone that could do that. There's of course Canelo, a equally talented boxer, with obviously some people say even better team behind him. It depends on who you ask. But besides that, his best wins to date are Israel Madrimov back when he was undefeated for the WBA championship, Errol Spence Jr. for the undisputed championship, Sean Porter, Kell Brook, the Mean Machine, Julius Indongo, which obviously, unfortunately, had a bad, losing streak afterwards, but does not matter, Victor Postal, Eureka's Gamboa, and Ricky Burns. Although obviously nowhere near the same as someone you could say Canelo, because Canelo is just that guy. Speaking of Canelo is 63-2 with 2 draws, 39 wins by way of knockout. Of course, he has tasted defeat before, and obviously you could tell he did not like it. So obviously he's not coming in just for a paycheck. He's not coming in underprepared. As a matter of fact, if there's any chance, he could have come over prepared. I mean, he's out here training with boots, training with some of the best people in the world, training for Crawford. He's taking this seriously. His best wins are, of course, Triple G back in middleweight. Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, Sergey Kovalev, Daniel Jacobs, Liam Smith, Amir Khan, Miguel Cotto, Iris Lundy Lara, and a lot more. Austin Trout, Mosley. In terms of resume, it is very much clear cut that it is Canelo that is better than Crawford. Crawford has his good fair share of resumes. I mean, four division champion, 2-division undisputed champion. It's kind of hard to beat that. But the names very clearly on Canelo's side. But as of recently, you can make the argument that both of them kind of suck. Crawford loses by default because he hasn't fought in damn near like a year or two. And Crawford, Canelo, you can make an argument that he dug to Benavidez. Look at his resume post Bevo loss. 40-year-old Triple G moving up. John Ryder, which of course wasn't mandatory, so you can't make fun of that. Jermell Charlo, 154-pound champion, which of course is something we're definitely talking about later. Munguia, who was never a champion at 168 and was only champion at 154. Berlanga, who was never champion, of course he's recently lost. William Scholl, who very many people thought he should have lost that fight. But it is clear as day that this Canelo is not the same as the Canelo that fought for Undisputed. And it makes sense. He's slower, he's stiffer, he no longer has that super slick head movement. He still has head movement, but nowhere near what he had before. At the end of the day, he could try his hardest, but winding back the clock is very hard to do, even for a great champion like Canelo. It's very interesting how this is going to happen. Now, of course, the biggest, obviously, ifs on this fight is, can Crawford even compete at 168? Crawford is a great fighter, everyone knows that. But jumping up 2 weight divisions to his 6th division to fight the best guy in the division is a tall order for anyone. And we already saw it happen with Jermell Charlo. Now, of course, the difference between that is Charlo wasn't 100% training for that fight like someone like Crawford is. I'm pretty sure after the Madrimov fight, he was just there training, assuming that he's going to get the Canelo fight. Jermell Charlo was set to fight Tim Tszyu for the undisputed titles. And then he got injured, and then he got set to face Canelo. Both inactive. Difference is Charlo was coming off of an injury, which is very weird because apparently Crawford's shoulder's kind of acting up. Ooh, something might happen. You never know. And we saw how it happened. Charlo is the naturally bigger guy compared to Crawford, even though people are claiming that Crawford is a natural 168 pounder. How? How the hell did he even make lightweight? Right? But you've seen his recent picks. He looks big. He looks strong. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If the frame isn't there, it's not there. If you look at Canelo, you say, oh, I thought the size difference wasn't a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Crawford is just 100% the smaller guy. Is not even up for debate. Crawford's the smaller guy. But the difference is how much of the weight is going to affect Crawford. Because Crawford, if he's anywhere near the Crawford that fought Madrimov or even Spence, if he even retains 75-80% of that speed and that timing, I'm going to say this right now. We're in for a long night. 12 rounds could very much be even a split decision. Assuming he could take the punch, and not take a punch like Charlo will take a punch like he could take it and he's not scared to fire back. I'm not saying Charlo was scared, but obviously he was being cautious. He felt the power. He realized, ooh, I gotta be careful. If I do something dumb, I'm gonna get knocked out. Assuming Crawford feels the power and does not play more defensive, we're in for a very good fight. But that's a lot of ifs. Crawford isn't a young man anymore. Canelo obviously is even less of a young man compared to Crawford, which is weird because Crawford's older. But obviously, mileage on the clock, or mileage, Canelo is very clearly the older fighter. Canelo has gone through a ton of wars. Out of the two, Canelo is much more worn than Crawford. And we saw in his last fight against Skull, anyone who moves, he kind of does not cut off the ring anymore. He cuts it off sometimes, but it's not what it used to be. But of course, people are saying that, oh, he just didn't care about the fight, and he kind of underestimated him, which is fair enough. But Crawford is quick. He has great timing. He has really strong counter punches. Can really catch anyone off guard, including Canelo. Canelo has a great chin, but like they say, the strongest punch is the one you don't see, or the hardest hitting punch is the one you don't see. And if there's anyone that could blind Canelo and hit him with a shot like that, it's Crawford. So that's what I'm saying. This is a if. This isn't a, oh, this is guaranteed a good fight. Because we don't know how Crawford's going to react. We don't know. But if Crawford retains, like I said, 70, 75, 80% of his speed and quickness and foot movement, I'm saying it right here. I'm putting in my thing. Give me Crawford by decision. If Crawford retains anything from his, super welterweight days, it's going to be Crawford. Not masterclass. It's not going to be masterclass. Wait, even if he were to keep all that, he's facing one of the best fighters of the division. Not one of the best fighters, the best. And it's going to be a tough fight, even if he were to retain all his skills and athleticism from his lower weight classes. It's still going to be a tough fight. But of course, how big is that if? How big is that if? Now, the plus side, okay, no, first the downside, obviously, he's gaining 14 pounds. Whether that be fat, whether that be muscle, 14 pounds is 14 pounds. It's a lot of weight. The good thing is, he's had damn near a year. What was it? When was the last time he fought? Damn near a whole year to put on this weight and to put it on properly. To train, to condition, to really fill in this weight class. That's the upside. So what I'm saying is that I say there is a 65% chance that that Crawford retains his athleticism from his his lower weight class days. And we saw what that Crawford did to elite fighters. People like to say, oh, but Madrimov did this to him. Yeah, but Madrimov is quick on his feet. He throws a lot of feints. He's awkward. He's off rhythm. It's kind of hard to catch someone that's off rhythm, but Crawford eventually did. Canelo is a flat-footed, slow fighter. He's no longer that guy that, that was like really elusive. He's hittable, really hittable. But of course, with that flat feet, obviously he's constantly standing his ground. Obviously his power is going to be there. But like I said, 65% chance that Crawford retains that. Give me Crawford by 7-5 decision. Now, that's right, 7-5 decision. We've seen what he has done to other elite fighters. You could say, oh, but this and this and that. Crawford, he's that guy. But I've been talking about how if he keeps it. If he doesn't keep it, how is it going to be? If he doesn't keep anything from his lower weight class days, it's going to be Canelo like 5th round stoppage. I'm not even joking. He's going to knock him out quick. Canelo hasn't knocked out anyone in a long time. But if Crawford doesn't retain anything from his super welterweight days or anything, yeah, he's getting knocked out quick. He's small. He wouldn't be durable. Yeah, it's over. So that's what I'm saying. If he keeps it, Crawford decision. If he doesn't, oh, Canelo's about to massacre this dude. I'm not even joking. It's going to be bad. It's either going to be one of the best fights ever, or it's going to be straight up just a horrible watch. You'll be like, oh. But anyways, who do you guys have winning these fights? And other than that, leave them down in the comments below. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.